That is what I'm saying, and I am also saying that the record button has been pressed, and this is our intro. So, hi, guys.
Okay.
We're going. We're doing this
How
thing.
are you doing, guys? It's another main episode of Guys Talking About Stuff.
Yeah, it's guys talking about stuff, and this time we're talking about horror movies. We're tackling the good old-fashioned ones here. We're tackling everything up till 1950.
Yeah.
I guess I'll give a little bit of just early horror stuff, and then just like how we got to this point. But yeah, I think it's interesting that you got to really dive in, and you can't do all of horror history in one episode. It's just not possible, I think.
No, we probably won't even get all of this half of the 1900s.
Yeah. So I guess we'll dive on. And I guess what I really want to start with is some of the old novels and stuff and the things that kind of got us to this point. So, obviously, I mean, horror in terms of like things that have scared people have been a thing for quite a while, I would imagine. Everything from being eaten by a lion to to voodoo and things in caves and vampires and werewolves and
The
demons
dark.
and
The dark. That had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
So
The unknown.
there's all that kind of things. And then more recently, you had in the early 1800s, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein as part of a contest. I think she only had like a couple hours, and she pounded that out, and it's still read to this day. And how many writers sit there for like tens of years trying to write a fucking book, and they get nothing done, nothing out, and I just find it kind of crazy that she did it as part of a contest. In a couple hours, she came up with a lasting story that's remade to this day.
Yeah, and it was original, too.
Yeah.
Well,
I have to
of.
believe that at least the concept she probably toyed around with for a little bit.
Yeah.
There's no way she just sat down and was like, or she was sitting there, well, what happens if some motherfucker brings somebody back from the dead? How about that?
Mm-hmm.
What? And it's like, well, how would they do that? Well, he's going to go grab body parts, and he's going to piece this person together and make this creepy monster thing, and it's going to be misunderstood and throw a girl
it's
in
gonna be misunderstood.
and then driven and murdered. Anyway,
I mean,
but then obviously you have like the werewolf myths and Dracula, and I think that takes us to the early part of horror when you really look and kind of digest like early horror in terms of the silent era, which is everything up through 1927. You really see that there's a lot of the classic kind of stuff. I mean, I think just counting everything in the silent era, I think there's like 20 Frankenstein films that were made and like a dozen or so Dracula films. Like,
yeah, this here website says that there's a Thomas Edison production of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
He made a light bulb, and then he made Frankenstein.
Well, he did a lot of weird stuff. He even invented like a thing with records and stuff. He had his own like record player thing.
They didn't have records back then, though. What are you talking about?
What do you mean? The Edison records?
Early 1900s? Oh,
Yeah, Thomas had made his own record. Like, this was operating in the early 1900s. Now, the discs were like thicker than a dinner plate, and they were played on a needle that's like the size of a finger, and the thing just came down and really gripped into it. And I only think they were made to last for like 10 plays.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like the records that we know of were created by like the Nazis in World War II.
Yeah? Oh, that's crazy.
It was that or something else, because I was watching something on.
Well, it is vinyl, and the Nazis did love themselves some vinyl.
Yeah, that's true. I was watching something on Robert Johnson, and he had.
I'm so sorry.
All his recordings were on electric, like they were electronic recordings or something like that. However, they did that back in the day. And then they went to analog, which the Nazis came up with, and then which was records, and then they went back to it nowadays with digital. Went back to the electronic recording.
That's some crazy shit.
History that could be wrong.
You know, it's hilarious. I just did a quick search on silent horror films just to bring up a list. And you know what Google gives me as the #1 silent film?
The General.
A Quiet Place from last year. I mean, I guess technically, in some regards, there are periods of silence, but it is not a silent movie. It's not a silent film. So, guys, you heard it here first on Guys Talking About Stuff. A Quiet Place is the silent film. Wow. Congratulations, A Quiet Place. You did it. You're better than everybody else. Wow. Now, it probably is based off of searches, and it's probably the kind of thing where, okay, well, people look up A Quiet Place, and people might call it quiet or silent, or maybe they mistype things, but Quiet Place is not a silent film. Anyway, I think one I do want to tackle that I would say it's not exactly horror, but I think without telling the story of it, you are skipping out on, in my opinion, the most important film ever made, and that's A Trip to the Moon. From 1903. It's the first film with special effects. I still think.
Isn't that where the guy gets like shot in the eye?
Yeah, the ship hits in the eye, and then the people get out onto the moon and everything. It's just a delightful little thing, and yes, it's only like 12 minutes long, but it's a great little piece, and it's crazy to imagine that the guy made it, Georges Méliès, French, obviously. He was like, how do I show a voyage to somewhere else, and this whole crazy idea of venturing into this total unknown kind of thing. And for the most part, movies up to that point had just been, here's a horse running, or here's some people out in a day at the park. There was never a story before. So I would.
It was also more of a miracle of the technology.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like, here's a horse running, and it's like, wow.
Oh my gosh.
Had pictures before.
Yeah, well, and I do really have to give credit, and I'm even pretty sure Georges Méliès made a horror short, if I'm correct. Let me look this up real quick. But Trip to the Moon is definitely something I suggest checking out.
Le Manoir du Diable, or Diable, I don't speak.
Yeah.
But that's George's.
Oh, yeah, that's right. No, wow, I can't believe I forgot.
And Le Cavern.
In 1896, he had done The House of the Devil, which is a pretty famous horror short. It's really quick. It's 3 minutes. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's The Shining, but it's something that.
And he did another one.
If you want to see like what
it's coming up in front
doing stuff, this guy was very important in fantasy, horror, and all these other things, and he was doing it before the 1900s. I mean, that's crazy. They really didn't have a lot to work with. But I definitely suggest House of the Devil, and I think he did some other horror stuff. Astronomer's Dream's a great one. I highly suggest diving in to Méliès's stuff. But yeah, Trip to the Moon. If I said 1903, I was mistaken. It says 1902 here. So there was that. Vanishing Lady. Guy did a lot and definitely started the trend of special effects, which I would say that horror movies, maybe not initially, but they have become kind of, or at least at one period in time, them and special effects worked really well with each other back in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, around that time era. You'd be hard-pressed not to find some kind of crazy special effects or something going on. Like, even in a Vincent Price movie, you're going to have, swinging things and ghosts and ghouls. And then, hell, you can't watch The Thing and see, all these kind of animatronic effects and these things go on, and to me, I can't watch that and not think that Mie didn't play a part on it. So I really think, looking at some of his early stuff, and definitely A Trip to the Moon, it's worth venturing into. But after that, I'd say the next kind of big thing to dive into would be, I mean, next notable thing I would probably say is Cabinet of Dr. Caligari in 1920.
Okay.
Now this one, if you've seen Shutter Island, it's very inspired by this film.
Is the director Robert Wien?
Robert
Wine? W-I-E-N-E. Looks like we need
So I'm sorry. So you are saying this was directed by Wien? Okay,
Bob Wien.
Bob Wien. Robert Weiner, because he's German, very German. Because the name of the thing is it's Das. Yeah, it is Das Cabinet de Caligari, which is Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And he ended up he did some other horror stuff like Hands of Orlac, which is another cool one to dive into. Or Orlok, I guess, because it's German. It wouldn't be Orlac. That's somebody
Definitely
trying
German, the one guy's name is Hans.
to... Hans and Franz. Anyway, but, yeah. I mean, not to say too much, because I really don't want to ruin this movie. I think it's really cool.
I mean, I think you're a bit far off to be putting out spoilers on a movie from the 1920s.
But it is one of those things where I think it is enough removed from a lot of people that they don't know exactly what's going to happen. And I do think it is definitely a classic of silent film. And I think even if you just want to go and watch some of the craziest, most interesting set designs you've ever seen, I think in terms of, if I were to just grade it on set design, it might be in the top 10 films ever made. Like, I think it's incredible. Some of the stuff that they're showing and the way they slanted lines, painted backgrounds, built things. And you can tell Tim Burton must have seen this movie about 1,000 times, because you cannot tell me Tim Burton was not inspired by, like, the German expressionism of this time in the 20s. And up to this point, you know, silent films had really had 20-ish years. Cameras have developed quite a bit since then. And silent films had really started finding their voice of what they are and what they could do and what they could use it for. And then 7 years later, they got rid of them, threw them in the trash can because we had talkies. Which a lot of people, when looking back, would argue, you know, talkies didn't really find their stride probably till mid to late 30s. Well, the funny thing is Chaplin was still doing silent films into the 40s.
Yeah, because he couldn't make regular films because his voice didn't work for it.
Yeah.
That's what happened for a lot of actors that were silent.
Mm-hmm. Well,
shame.
hey, Charlie Chaplin, though, he did find a way to make it work, and he does speak at the end of The Great Dictator, and he has a very famous speech at the end of that. And it's really great. I know this has nothing to do with horror stuff, but if you do, if you want to venture into silent films, Charlie Chaplin's a great place to go, because the dude understood the format like nobody. And if I were to do a top 10 silent film list, he'd probably have 6 or 7 of the 10 spots.
It's pretty crazy. There's this one sound, I forget what it is, but he goes through this mechanism like a machine.
Oh, yeah, Modern Times is the.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And like he
he's
actually has to fucking do that. Like, there's not like.
Oh yeah, they didn't.
There was no stop or anything.
There was no CG.
I mean, like, there wasn't.
You know?
Back then, it was far enough back then where there wasn't like a hit stop button. It was like you start it and then it goes through the whole process, and if he comes out dead, then we just videotaped somebody die.
They're like, well, Charlie had a nice run.
Yeah. But he did that shit. It was crazy.
And I do think, venturing into this stuff, I know I hear a lot from people. I don't like silent films. I don't like black and white. That's just weird. Or you hear, and
That's old people stuff.
And even if you're listening to it, you can even have that opinion. But I do want to challenge you, and I think that sometimes what you got to do is really look at what you're going into with a different mindset, realizing don't expect 2019 stuff from a film from 1920. Go in with a complete open mind and say, where's this going to take me? What's it going to do? How, what's it going to do? And I think they really deliver such a different experience than what you're going to get nowadays. And I think there's something incredible about that, you know, really getting these incredibly different things from what we're used to can really open us up to some different things. But I think it gives you different kinds of enjoyment, because it's easy for, you know, if you only stick with modern stuff and current stuff, everything's going to seem very plain and similar and a little too familiar. And then everything you're watching, I mean, a lot of mainstream stuff all seems the same nowadays. So for me, I'm like, I don't want the same experience from every single thing I watch. That's boring to me. I want to not know where I'm getting taken. So jumping into a German 1920s silent film, that's going to take me somewhere different. You know, that's not going to be, you know, some bullshit reality television show. That's a whole different perspective. Heck, World War I had just ended at that time. I mean, that's some crazy shit to think about. World War II hadn't even happened yet, but, you know, so...
You know, the Germans aren't the only ones in Europe to make a movie that's influential in the 20s. There's also The Phantom Carriage, which is a Swedish film.
Oh, yeah. Sweden did a lot of stuff in the early bit of cinema. Well, and even later on, I mean, heck, Ingrid Bergman and Ingmar Bergman alone have contributed so much to cinema that, and that's just picking two Swedish people, you know. We've been in so much stuff, and that's everything. I don't even think they were related, so.
I've never seen this movie, but it says here that it inspired some scene in The Shining.
In which film? Phantom Carriage?
Phantom Carriage, 1921.
Oh, interesting. Okay, The Phantom Carriage. Yeah. I think this is one I actually haven't seen, so that does excite me to see.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
And it influenced Stanley Kubrick. I'm amazed you haven't fucking seen it.
Oh, I know. Wow. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I do know of this one. Yeah, it was one of, like, the first movies that decided to use color as a character, which, I mean, that's exciting.
I mean, what, it had blue?
I mean, well, like, they have certain scenes where there's, like, a silverish quality. Somewhere it's blue, somewhere it's gold. And different things are kind of going for creating different moods, because obviously blue's going to create a different mood than like neon pink, and that's something I've had some people tell me, oh, color doesn't matter in movies. Color, that's bullshit. I've never noticed anything. It's like, if I made a set of all neon pink, you would notice, you know, like you wouldn't be oblivious to the fact that I did it. It's subconscious. It does tap into something. But look at Wes Anderson's movies. They look like nobody else's stuff, and they're very like fall colors and like blends, but it creates the mood he's going for in his style of attacking things meets the color. And that's kind of what you want to do as a filmmaker, is make sure things work.
Yeah.
And using color is a great way to do that. But yeah, Phantom Carriage, yeah, that's one I need to see, so that's going on the watch list.
Well, the next one up would be 1922, the ripoff of Dracula.
Oh.
Nosferatu.
And it actually is, yeah, it was funny. A lot of the, it's a miracle that we have copies of this movie nowadays, because when this all went down, they had seized a bunch of copies because they were like, oh, this infringed on the copyright, blah, blah, blah. This is Dracula. What are you talking about? You just changed some names, some locations, some things. And they destroyed a whole bunch of the copies. But somehow, some of them survived. and they were preserved, and there's actually some amazing looking copies of them to this day. You get one from Kino Lorber, and it's like a 4K scan of the thing, for Pete's sake. And Nosferatu's a crazy movie. I actually think it might be the best Dracula film made, which is crazy to think that a rip-off movie.
Oh, you didn't like the one with Robert De Niro in? Or that was
no, Gary Oldman.
Wait.
The Frankenstein.
No, that was Frankenstein. But Christopher Lee.
Oh, the Christopher Lee drag.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Nosferatu is like a special level film.
I mean, it is its
like
own
for
thing.
what it is of silent film and stuff. It's crazy. We haven't even gotten to my all-time favorite silent film, which is from the same year.
Opera?
No, it's same year. It's 22, and I'm gonna hit that one next.
Mm-hmm.
But Nosferatu. I mean, there's some really creepy stuff in the design of Nosferatu. It was Dracula. Is really creepy. The long fingers, the kind of just disturbing qualities to him.
Mm-hmm. Looks like a rat.
He looks kind of like a bat rat.
Mm-hmm.
Creepy kind of
He
thing,
does
and
look like a bat.
yeah, it works. It's got some creepy stuff to it. I feel like, you go and steal some really kind of like creepy John Carpenter synth score, and you throw it on Nosferatu, man. It'd probably be fucking incredible, man. So John Carpenter, I'm not saying do this, but take the hint, man. But no, I love Nosferatu. But next up, I'm gonna say my favorite silent film of all time is another Swedish film, and it is Häxan. It's about witchcraft. It is a very interesting movie. It dives into like the history of witchcraft, demonology, Satanism, and all that kind of stuff. And I really don't want to say too much. I'm just saying some of the creepiest shit I've ever seen in a movie, let alone just silent films or something from the 20s. But Häxan's got some creepy stuff in it. And because it's Swedish, man. What are you talking about? But I'm almost certain it's Swedish. Let me check. I want to make sure I get this right for you guys. It might be Danish. I don't. Yeah, Swedish Danish. Okay, so it's both. Okay. The only thing that threw me off is that it has the umlaut over the A. And I'm not sure.
Umlaut.
It's basically.
I don't know Swedish.
Well, no.
I don't know Swedish.
Auf Deutsch, man. No. In German. I
don't know German.
In a lot of Germanic languages, you put an umlaut over, and it's the little dot thing or whatever.
What about the 3 dot?
Anyway, so you put the umlaut thing over, and basically it's an AE sound.
What about the Russian upside down R?
Okay. That has nothing to do with this, and you're distracting me in front of my friends. No, there's lots of crazy stuff with languages and stuff, and if you can pick up on little characteristics, you can kind of gauge things. Like, for example, if somebody says this thing's Scandinavian, they show it to you, and it's got umlauts, and it's like Jorgensen or something, it's most likely Norwegian, Danish, or Sweden, and you can automatically cut Finland out because Finland's language is so different from theirs, and that's actually a lot closer to Hungarian because their culture is Hungarian because that's how they developed and they came up from there and all that crazy shit.
Here's a good question. Is boobs writable in any other language on a calculator?
Boobs writable? Yeah, in German it's B-O umlaut B. Beep.
How do you do an umlaut on a calculator?
Beep.
Boop.
Yeah.
All right,
so
Häxan. There you go.
Häxan.
Then you got Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera. But that has Lon Chaney Sr. in it, and he was the man of 1,000 faces, I guess they called him. And he,
I guess he had half a face in that one, right?
He would do all different kinds of crazy makeups, and this one has a very famous makeup.
So
from
he's
him.
the Johnny Depp of that time.
Yeah. He definitely inspired any kind of. Well, definitely he inspired the Universal monsters. that came afterward, and he really inspired, something like a Johnny Depp, or really anybody who was a character actor or somebody who was playing the monster, but not
Christian
playing
Bale.
it just to be some nameless monster, but like actually a character.
Christian Bale.
Yeah, I guess you could say Christian.
Out of
I mean,
anyone,
if Christian
he
Bale wanted to play
becomes the motherfucker. Like,
if Christian Bale wanted to play a cucumber that's trying to find the true meaning of Christmas, he could fucking nail it. That's what I'm. He could be Darth Vader in a movie about chicken nuggets and breastfeeding. I don't know, man. Like he nail it, man.
that'd be interesting.
Ew, I want to see that movie though. Breastfeeding chicken nuggets. Yeah. Anyway, that'd be a crazy silent film. I'll tell you what. Yeah.
What about the Warner Brothers production, The Terror, 1928?
The Terror. I actually do not know this one.
Notable for being Warner Bros.' second all-talkie picture.
Oh, okay.
And the first horror film with synchronized sound.
Wow. Okay, can I see the Terror? Let me look this up real quick. I mean, yeah, it's interesting when looking at film history. 1927, it's like as soon as they developed the ability to synchronize sound with film, because people don't understand, back in the day, you went to see a silent film, you'd walk in the theater and there'd be an orchestra or a person with
piano, playing the piano, yeah.
Or a person would have, there was another thing, something, and it had, I'm trying to remember what the name of this machine thing is real quick. It's, give me 1 second, because I looked it up the other day. I know it's a weird thing to look up.
I think I know what you're
But it's, it has like these pulleys on it, and honkers, and all these other kinds of crazy shit. What the hell is it?
Honky tonk.
Nah, it was like a telephono, or...
Oh. A telephoner, I think that's what it's called. Telephoner. Not telephono. It might be telephone. I don't know.
What
It's
the
not a
hell
Spanish
was that?
word.
I'm like, Google, you're letting me down with it. I searched the
Telephone.
other day. Anyway, so they had this big thing, and it made like some circus kinds of sounds and all that crazy shit. And there'd be people playing music for the scenes, and they'd even have books that'd kind of go over, okay, if the scene is this is what you should play, or okay, pull from Chopin, or dive into a Beethoven piece for a funeral. But what became interesting was the book ended up really kind of defining cultural norms for our music and film. So it's really interesting to look at. We kind of sync a lot of these sounds up, and it's based off of this book that was made for the composers in the silent era. And then they learned to sync up sound, and they started making talkies. And then this is when we dive into, okay, there's actual sound in movies. And for a while, it was typically, okay, the sound for conversations and maybe some music here or there. They would try to sync certain things up, or they'd sync some singing. The first film with sound was The Jazz Singer, which was remade with Neil Diamond in the 70s. But that's a nice tidbit. But so if your parents talk about the movie, we're thinking of two different movies. And it won Best Picture because, oh my God, what is this sound shit? People were really blown away by the fact that there was sound in the movie. It's not necessarily that great of a film, but it's a very important one to dive into. And afterwards, yes, now we get the terror, we got sound, and I think the next big step in horror is the Universal horror monsters, and that comes around in 1931.
There's also Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. 31.
Oh, we forgot Dr. Jekyll.
He's in 31 too.
Oh,
Paramount Pictures.
trying to think. Okay.
Paramount.
So we got that one. We have let's go.
Universal Monsters.
We have the Universal horror, and that is I'm going to tackle 31, and that's Frankenstein and Dracula. Dracula was the first
Yeah, yeah,
Universal
30.
horror film.
That was in 31 too, Dracula.
And it's funny, at the same time on the same sets, they were filming the English and the Spanish versions.
Oh, and Frankenstein.
Yeah. And so for Dracula, there is 2 different versions of the movie. People do debate which one's better. I think there's some cool stuff with Bela Lugosi. I think he does a great job as Dracula. He really nails the nature of the thing. Nobody can do Dracula without doing Bela Lugosi, and that's how you know he is the Dracula. Because anytime somebody goes, "I am Dracula, I'm here to drink your blood," or something, it's full. Yeah, any of that. It's full on Bela Lugosi. So he redefined the character and is the iconic character, which I think is really kind of cool. And I think the first Dracula film, I think, has a lot of great moments in it, and I think even has some scenes where it's pretty creepy, where it chooses to go without sound rather than use the music, and that's because the director Todd Browning had come from the silent film background. I mean, obviously, silent films were not an old thing yet. They'd just moved on from it, and he ended up, I'm going to go into his next film in a little bit here, but Dracula is definitely a classic and one to watch, and I really think the initial run here of the Universal monsters, I think, is essential viewing as a horror fan. You got to do Dracula, then go into Frankenstein, then you hit Invisible Man, Wolfman, and then way down the line we get Creature from the Black Lagoon, which isn't even going to be in this episode, which I think that's crazy to show that, Universal had some staying power, although they did stick around with some of the monsters a little bit. Like, okay, Frankenstein and Dracula had a whole bunch of films, and then they moved on to some different ones. But here in 31, we've got our Dracula, and then Frankenstein was Boris Karloff, who everyone knows his voice if they've seen the Grinch cartoon. He's was famous for doing his voice acting later on in his career, but he really was a good monster, and he was really famous. Like, people don't understand, like, Boris Karloff, yeah, he was but he was a big star, and even though he's a big hulking monster, he was.
This movie right here, The Island
So
of
important.
Lost Souls, has a credited person called the Panther Woman.
Oh yeah, Island of Lost Souls is a messed up movie. Like, it's pre-code. So what I'll explain this. Yeah, I'll try and explain this in 30 seconds. So before, I'm trying to think of what year it was.
32.
Hollywood Code. When did they put that in? Okay. Okay, pre-code was everything until 34.
But this one's 32.
Okay, well, code was put in 1930, but poor oversight led it to not be enforced until 1934. Okay, so yeah, 32. Island of Lost Souls is pretty messed up, and it's one of the films that made them go, okay, we really need this code thing in place because we want to censor what's going on in movies. And Island of Lost Souls is, there's an island where people have been mutated and turned into these animal monster things. It's kind of like Island of Dr. Moreau, which is a H.G. Wells story. Which was Island. It might. Well, does it say H.G. Wells?
On the front. Look.
Okay, well then it was
H.G. Wells, Island of the Lost Souls. Right on the front.
H.G. Well, see, the book is Island of Dr. Moreau, and they turned it into Island of Lost Souls.
Mm-hmm. But it's still the same.
And then there are 2 Island of Dr. Moreaus. They are interesting movies themselves. One has Marlon Brando. That's the 90s one. Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando. It's not the best movie, but the story of the production of it is much more entertaining than the film itself. But that's a story for another day. Island of Lost Souls, yeah, it's based off that, and it's this guy's taken people, mutated them with stuff, and they turn into these kind of like monstery people, and then they kind of get their revenge. Not to ruin it, but Island of Lost Souls is definitely worth the watch. I think that's a great one. But explaining the code here, so in 1934 they started enforcing it, but they wanted to take out no sexual stuff. We don't want profanity, drug use, prostitution, violence, too much violence. Homosexuality was on that list. Profanity, I already said that. Prostitution. So they wanted to cut down on things, and movies that really inspired them to get the code were like Island of Lost Souls, the original Scarface. It just things that really pushed the limit and made some people uncomfortable with what was getting shown. So they put a code up, and I don't think that got taken down until somewhere in the 60s. So basically everywhere else we're going to go with this, there was kind of a censoring process. They didn't have a rating system back then. So there wasn't like, this movie's G, PG, PG-13, none of that shit. It was, every movie was in theaters and anybody could walk in. So they put a code up, and now every movie is safe, every family can go in, this, that, and the other thing. And it did kind of create a family environment for the movies and that kind of thing. But, shit changes, and, we're not a family-based society anymore. I mean, anywhere you look, it's women shaking their booties and their breasts right in your face. And I don't know that anybody's complaining, but what I'm saying is it's not a family environment anymore. And I don't know. I don't know how to feel exactly about that, but
you got King Kong, 1933.
Now, King Kong's a crazy one. 32, real quick, was Invisible Man also, and that's probably my.
Was
Invisible Man was 33. What? Okay, so yes, it was. So yeah, we got. Then maybe the Universal monsters were 32. I don't know.
It was 30, two. No, 31. Universal Monsters was 31 because it was Frankenstein and Dracula. And then the next year was The Mummy.
Oh, they did The Mummy was 32. See, The Mummy's one that, I hate to say this, I don't, I much prefer the Hammer horror Mummy movie to the Universal Mummy. I just think Christopher Lee.
I grew up with the newer one. Not
the
trash one that came out now.
The 50s.
Not the 50s
Christopher Lee.
The fucking 90s one.
The Robert De Niro. Or no, you're talking about Brendan Fraser Mummy. Okay. The first one is very enjoyable. The second one is
ruined by the kid.
Yeah.
And then the third one's just unmentionable.
The third one is horrible. Yeah, I heard that one's really bad too. I haven't put myself through that torture.
Good.
But Invisible Man's my favorite Universal monster movie. I love the Invisible Man. Claude Rains.
They haven't remade that.
Yeah. You know how many times they've remade Invisible Man?
I know, but that's why I'm saying they haven't.
They haven't done it in a while, and it is public domain because that story was H.G. Wells. That's way back when. But Invisible Man, Claude Rains' performance as the Invisible Man's incredible in the movie. He really elevates it to a whole nother level, and that is, I think, you know what we missed?
The Wolfman's 41.
Yeah, when was Bride of Frankenstein? Was that 32?
35.
35, okay. So, James Whale had done Frankenstein, then he did Invisible Man, and then he goes on to do Bride of Frankenstein. Frankenstein's a really good movie. I just like Invisible Man the most.
On this list, Wizard of Oz.
Okay, we'll tackle Wizard of Oz. I guess we'll.
What about Cat People, 1942?
Okay, that's a cool one. That's a really interesting film as well. Cat People has its disturbing stuff. You know what I did forget? I said I was going to go into Todd Browning's next film, and that was 1932, and that's Freaks. Now, obviously not politically correct. they were circus performers, and they were quote unquote freaks. These aren't my words; they're their words. And what you see is some interactions at this circus place, and I don't want to ruin Freaks at all because I think it is one of the best movies of this era. It is pretty creepy, and the ending is unforgettable. There's a lot of footage missing from Freaks, which apparently was way more disturbing than what they end up showing. And Freaks is the movie where everyone basically got together and said, we need the code in place now. So, yeah, there's some good disturbing stuff. I mean, it's not like Hostel or like some torture porn stuff, you know, it's...
Oh.
But it was like, you know, these freaks are like mutilating...
These freaks?
Are mutilating two people.
Can you believe that
like,
these freaks came into
original
my farm and got my pigs and took them away?
In the original cut, apparently they castrated the one guy and then like raped and murdered the lady. I'm like, okay, for 1932, that'd have been fucking crazy, man. A castration and a murder rape?
But since they didn't have CGI, they actually did it, right?
I love when people are like, "Oh, CGI's great. It makes everything easy." It's like that's what like a bad filmmaker says. It makes my day go by faster. It's like that's not what you want to hear from a director, man. Makes things easy. No, you want it to be hard because that's making yourself make the best thing you can, man.
Oh, yes. The movie I saw was a fucking remake of this movie because I did want to talk about this one. I didn't see this one. Body Snatchers.
Mm-hmm.
The Body Snatcher. Well, this is The Body Snatcher. I saw The Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Donald Sutherland.
Oh, this actually has nothing to do.
Really? It's a different thing?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about... Okay. The Body Snatcher's about
The Body Snatcher.
And he's a guy and he's like robbing graves and stuff. Invasion of the Body Snatchers was a novel that was turned into the 57 version. Mm-hmm. That's black and white. And that's
That's the Donald Sutherland.
It's a great one. No, Donald Sutherland's 1978.
Okay.
And then there's one from the 90s, and then there's one from the 2000s with Daniel Craig and Nicole Kidman. I think. And that one's called The Invasion. The one in the 90s was on a military base. Yeah, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a weird series where the first two are fucking amazing, and then the rest of them are kind of... Okay, the 90s one's kind of was misunderstood. It's a weird movie. And then the 2000s one, I here's the same kind of ordeal, but the second two didn't get good responses, but the first two are like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes kind of level things. They're classics, but yeah, it had nothing to do with it. So
that's funny.
Yeah, and
that's funny. They were
similar
so close.
title.
All right.
There's Werewolf of London. Yeah, I guess we got to start zooming through this if we want to get.
Is that the song?
Yeah, I guess that would be inspired.
Werewolves of London.
Well, the thing is, the Werewolves of London song. I mean, that's from 1978 or 9, so clearly not from the same time period.
Well, I mean, it could be about the movie.
Yeah, it is kind of like a throwback thing. And I do know we said we had talked King Kong.
Yep.
We had hit that.
I mentioned that one.
I love the original King Kong. It's a classic. It blew people's minds, like special effects wise. Like,
no, that's the first one,
people
right?
were not prepared for it. Yeah, 33.
Okay.
And then they did like a Son of Kong, and then there was Mighty Joe Young and some other stuff, and that inspired a whole bunch of those giant ape movies.
Now, is that the one where the guy was building animatronic, or like not animatronic,
the stop motion?
Build like these little robot things that were like really animatronic. Like...
Yeah, and they were stop motion. They moved the things. Yeah, it wasn't. And I know a lot of times I hear people. It was O'Brien. It was
I wonder if his name's on here.
The O'Brien. I always forget his last name, and I hate. No, his last name's O'Brien. Obviously, not his first name. James O'Brien. Jim. Not Conan.
Conan O'Brien making them animatronics.
Here we go. Let me real quick. I'll find this. There's no way I'm not okay. Willis O'Brien, and then he inspired Ray Harryhausen, who was another big time stop motion guy. He was like the next big guy, and he came on. He did like Jason and the Argonauts and some other stuff. Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. So he comes a little later.
That's who I'm talking about.
Willis O'Brien did the stuff for King Kong, and he like kind of really invented a lot of the stop motion, the metallic little things. And
but did the other guy make a King Kong?
I have to check to see. I don't think so, because the only other King Kong movie I can think of that would have been around would be the 70s Jeff Bridges one, and I'm pretty sure that was a guy in a suit King Kong.
Maybe it is Willis O'Brien.
Willis O'Brien did the King Kong. But Ray Harryhausen's a huge time guy in the stop motion stuff.
Because you'd make these like all metal figures.
Yeah,
and then they'd cover them in the...
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's funny... When Wes Anderson does stop motion stuff, you know, those guys still use the same techniques and stuff. And Leica Studio, who did Kubo and the Two Strings and those kind of stuff, they use little stop motion, build the little metal casings, cover them and stuff. And all of those movies are all stop motion. It's not animated.
No, this is totally off topic.
I know.
But who makes Wallace and Gromit?
That is... Oh, okay. Okay.
I keep asking people
as soon as we go into Wallace and Gromit, I love Wallace and Gromit.
I keep asking people if they know who Wallace and Gromit is, and they're like, no. And I'm like, you kidding me? Wallace and Gromit's great.
Oh, wow. I hadn't realized that the original Wallace and Gromit, Wallace and Gromit, A Close Shave, won an Academy Award for Best Short Film. It should have, though. James Gromit. That was Nick Park, Aardman Animations.
Yeah.
Wallace and Gromit. I mean, I could talk for days about that, because I mean, I grew up with that stuff.
Yeah, I always used to go to my aunt's house, and she had like the VHSs.
Oh yeah, I find that stuff so fascinating, because for me, great stop motion is just so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wants to go the easy route of just fuck it, animate it. Oh, we got computers that'll do all the work for us. We can have them pump it out in a year.
Wasn't that all clay that they did?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
Some crazy shit, man. Yeah. Let's see. We're
the
still
Black Cat.
We're still in the 30s.
1934.
Black Cat's that's really good.
Is that where the Black Cat walking across your step being bad luck came from?
Oh, I think that goes before that.
And walking under ladders. Don't you think the bad luck would be the guy under the ladder? Because like if the guy bumps into the ladder or just decides to like push the ladder, the guy up on the ladder is the one with the bad luck, not the guy that walked underneath it.
If I'm correct, either Black Cat or Cat People, I know two very different movies. But one of them invented the jump scare. There's a scene where a bus goes by, and then happens, and it's a jump scare. It's the very first example of the jump scare. And it's just kind of interesting to kind of drive it back.
Well, this guy has a crippling fear of cats. So that might be that one.
Might be.
Let me look at the other one, it might say.
I just think that's what's really interesting is, you know, at its heart, jump scares, there's nothing wrong with them. And I know...
Oh, they just got overused.
Oh, and that's my thing. I've seen, and a great example is, John Carpenter uses jump scares, but he uses it like once a movie or twice a movie, and he nails it. In the original Halloween, there's parts where Michael Myers comes out of nowhere and hops, you know... But he doesn't only use it. It's not, hello, let me walk down this dark hallway that clearly something is lingering in. And, oh, you go down and then you count. And then the music cuts out and it's like 1, 2, 3, jump. Every single time it's exactly the same thing. That's how they use a formula, and that's lazy. But studios want to use the path of least resistance, and that's make movies as lazy as possible to maximize profits and don't give a shit about who the fuck's watching it. You know?
I bet it would. I think that's the other one with the junk scare, because this one's fucking weird.
It might be the Black Cat, or it's a movie from the 40s.
This one says does not. This one's 40 Cat People 42. This one says that this chick doesn't change. She changes from sexual attraction. You want to fuck? Oh, I'm a cat now. Sorry, I can't. Sounds like a weird fucking movie. Some interesting people back in the 1940s.
Yeah,
I like cats.
Yeah.
There's the raven, too. Or are people just picking animals back then and just being like... The bear. The black bear. Or they're picking animals that wouldn't be scary in the first place.
Yeah.
The guinea pig.
Okay. I think the jump scare thing I'm thinking of is the 1941 black cat. I don't know. I have to look, and I know it's like, oh, well, you should have done some of that research before you started the mic up.
That's part of our charm, guys.
That's part of our charm.
We don't do research. You kidding me?
We do research while we're talking,
Yeah,
man.
I mean, like, we're getting stuff off the internet so that you guys can comment and be like, you're wrong. That was an internet source. And we want that feedback, guys. Come on. I never see it. He does, but I don't.
I mean, we also got, Old Dark House as a classic.
Here we go. 1950. We're not here yet. Definitely not. We're going to do this in the next episode, but 1958 Horror of Dracula.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the Christopher Lee one.
Oh, yeah, we've got that's the Hammer stuff. We're definitely going to hit that. I mean, Kevin, we are through, we're in the 30s. I have a good one to talk about, but you want to maybe cap this episode off at, 1939, 40, and then we'll start the next one, 40 through 70.
How about this? We'll finish up these few ones, and we'll cap it at 1939 Wizard of Oz.
Okay. All right. Okay. I've got a good one to talk about. Vampire from 1932 is one of the craziest movies I've ever seen.
Is it a Dracula ripoff?
It's its own thing. I don't know that I've ever seen another movie like it. I mean that in the best way possible. I have it. It's right there. There's some cinematography work done in it that, if I cut it right and I took some clips and I put them together for you, you might tell me you think it's from some kind of footage from the 80s of somebody doing a Neo 30s going for black and white, like a Eraserhead kind of thing. The work and the way the camera moves is on a whole other level than kind of contemporaries. Now, it's also because it's a German film and some other countries were a little bit more crazy and out there with stuff they were doing.
And this was also a 30s film in the mid to late 30s, which, if you guys are not very big history buffs, they were in the middle of invading certain countries.
If I'm correct, I think Vampire would be right before the Nazis really took control of everything and censored shit. We also have, I can't believe it's not even on this list. I know it might not be straight horror, but yeah. So Vampire, definitely check out Vampire. I think that's fantastic. But another one from 1931, M from Fritz Lang. I know it listed here it's a drama, mystery, and that kind of stuff. It has some good thriller element stuff, some really good cinematography. The direction's incredible. Fritz Lang had a complete understanding of what he was doing.
What about Vertigo? I don't even know when that came out.
Vertigo, oh my gosh, 1958.
I just know my mom.
Vertigo gets a perfect 10 from. If somebody's like, you can only give 10 movies a perfect 10, it's like, well, what would you give Vertigo? It gets a 10. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. It's the kind of movie where every time I see it, it's like I gotta go for a walk and think about shit. It's like, damn, Hitchcock just put the ball on the tee and just jacked that thing 600 feet out of the fucking county, man. So
This is why we need another episode.
This is why.
And
And that's why it's like we'll finish through the 30s, and then I
so
think
this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the early 1900s. Then we're gonna do like
mid
40s to 80s, and
40s
then
like up to 80,
up
and
to
then
80, and then
80 through
80 to
2000.
2000.
Yeah, and Fritz Lang's a guy to jump into if you want maybe not like straight up horror, but that kind of like mystery thriller, tension filled kind of stuff. M is an absolute classic. Let's see. Let's go back to that list I was on. Oh, I lost my list. No. Okay. So we hit that. There's the 1931 Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie, which we can move past that. There's so much stuff we can't even talk about everything. Well, Mask of Fu Manchu, how could we miss that? Oh, Most Dangerous Game, that's a classic.
Ooh, I read that as a short story in school. That was a really good story, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like they're hunting that guy.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, why don't you come to this island? Sure. All right. You should go out into the woods and just kind of like hang out there. It's like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's a really cool one. It's a great story, and the movie is really good, too.
Another off-topic one, really good movie that no one ever thinks of. The original Castaway movie, Robinson Crusoe. That's a book from...
okay.
I think it's the 1800s or something. I might be wrong. Might be early. Might be like 1907 or something. I have a copy of a book from like 1913 or something. Robinson Crusoe. But it's a movie with Pierce Brosnan in it.
Oh, okay.
Really good movie. I would recommend watching it. And it came out before Castaway was definitely an inspiration to that.
Yeah. Nice. There's another one, Testament of Dr. Mabuse. I haven't seen it, but I've heard really good things. That's supposed to be a pretty good classic. I mean,
Mabuse.
For the most part, everything through this era, horror-wise, is going to be very gothic, probably vampire, some kind of monster, some kind of external threat.
So what you're saying, they could have made a really good Batman movie.
Yeah, I guess so. There was a Sweeney Todd movie done in this time. I mean, we didn't really dive too much into Bride of Frankenstein's a classic, and Son of Frankenstein's still there in the 30s as well. I think those first three Frankenstein movies, all three of them are really good. And all three of them kind of hold merit. And all three are definitely inspirations for Young Frankenstein, and all the stuff Mel Brooks took from that is a lot of in those three movies. Which
I love that movie.
Oh, I love Young Frankenstein. Yeah. If you've seen that, it's worth watching the Universal Frankenstein movies just for that, because you'll be like, oh, that's a reference to that. Holy shit. Oh, and there's the guy.
I watched it because I was like, it's the guy from Everyone Loves Raymond.
And there's so much here that, obviously we're going to miss a bunch.
Yeah, we'll probably hop back and forth throughout the times like we did this episode.
I think we should end on the home run of Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
and I know people are like, that's not a horror movie, blah, blah, blah. It's like, if you show that to a kid...
If it's not a horror movie, tell me what genre it is.
Yeah. It's fantasy. Well, fantasy and horror are the same damn genre. It's
but think about how that fantasy is. This chick got sucked up into a tornado.
Taken away from her home.
And
she murders a witch as soon as she shows up.
She murders somebody when she shows up into a land. And then, like, the scene with the Wicked Witch, it's just, like, barren-ass, like, area.
And there's a hanging short person in one.
Yeah.
No. Okay, I'll dive into that myth.
But what I'm saying, I remember that. Yeah. That's pretty dark.
Yeah, there's been the story of everybody's like, well, one of the short people decided to hang themselves on set, and it's in one of the scenes. And it is interesting that is a conspiracy that I don't even know how to feel about anymore, because I've seen so many videos on it.
Here's not a conspiracy. She was like Judy Garden. she was like 18 years old or something like that. They wanted her to look like a 13-year-old girl. So they fed her what they fed fucking Jews in, like, the
concentration camps.
They fed her, like, chicken broth. That's it. Like, basically that, and they had a corset on her, and, like, apparently they put a corset on her, and she'd try and get through the scene before she would pass out.
Well, that's some horror shit right there.
They basically made her not eat so that she would look like a 13-year-old. And then she had all these, like, mental problems after that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, people forget. It is funny. It's like, in the era of values and all those things, it's like, oh, there was none of that going on in Hollywood. Hollywood's always been the worst people in society.
In a time of values where you could beat your wife.
The good old days. Back in the days where she said something to you once, but that was okay. She said something twice. She got the back of the hand. It's like, oh, not today. Nowadays, you look at a woman funny and she'll pull a pistol out on you. It's like, what? Mm-hmm. You evil man. That's some horror shit right there. But the whole myth of the hanging midget, which I don't want to be politically incorrect with the midget talk, but there's like pages and videos devoted, and it's like the mystery of the hanging midget, and that's like the official like conspiracy words about the hanging midget in the Wizard of Oz.
Did you know that Toto was credited as Toto, but the dog's real name was not Toto? And also,
he wasn't from Africa.
The dog made money. That dog
made money.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. It was a paid.
Well, I have to assume like
it was a paid character. It was a paid actor.
Yeah.
And here's what happened, right? Toto died, and there was no or they buried the body somewhere where it lived, right? Where not in Texas, wherever, or Kansas, wherever the hell they got the dog from. It died, and they had a monument, or they put a highway right where it was buried, and
now it's haunted.
No, the highway is haunted by Toto, a very small dog.
Oh, and every time you drive through there, I either hear "Hold the Line" or "Africa." It's really weird.
But the remains were exhumed and they were never found, so they put up a memorial of Toto where it generally used to be buried, but there's a highway where Toto used to be buried.
Wow. So we've got that. We have
more horror aspects of the whole thing.
And I think the best way to truly dive into the horror aspects, or if you watch the perfect version of the film, and that's the one synced up with The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, and yeah, it is one of those incredible experiences because you pop that movie on with that, you get that going. There is some real terror in that, because I mean the perfect example is the song "On the Run" is probably the most like getting like a feeling of like anxiety and stuff.
Yeah, and
mixed with what's going on.
She doesn't know where the fuck she is. She's just told to walk towards some emerald city. Yeah. And there's a witch after her.
Yeah. Wizard of Oz, I mean, in my opinion, you know that list of you can only give 10 movies a 10. Wizard of Oz is also getting a 10. Mm-hmm. And the sad thing, though, is if somebody's like, you can only give 10 movies a 10, I'd probably be sitting there like, I only gave 10 movies a 10. It's like, Alex, you've given like 300 movies a 10. It's like, well, there's that many movies that deserved a 10, man. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there, and I think the more you dive in, the more you realize how many good movies are there and how many different things you can pick up from stuff. And I think Wizard of Oz is one of like the ultimate messages in a movie that Oz the Great and Powerful and all this shit, it's just a fucking show. Everybody who's bigger than you or, oh, I got more power, I'm the big bastard, it's all fucking act. Yep. They're just a floating head and a guy in a goddamn curtain who's a nobody, a nothing. You know, so next time somebody bullies you, punch him in the face, man. You know what? I am inciting violence on the... I'm starting mass hysteria.
I mean, he like for real though. There's a true thing on that. If someone bullies you, like if they're pushing you around, punch them in the fucking face.
Yeah,
Don't be all cowardly and then go tell on them.
Well,
because
the cowardly lion.
see, this is what's wrong with America nowadays. They're pussifying everybody. And then, like, when Russia comes and they all fucking push us to the ground, we're all going to be like, okay.
Well,
no one's going to stand back up.
We should give them everything they want because that will make them go away. You realize that's what led Hitler to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, shit. Well, I guess that's bad.
Yeah, but The Wizard of Oz, it's creepy and it's also great.
It's great. The creepy monkey character thing.
Yeah.
And I even suggest the Return to Oz, the sequel. We could talk about that one in, I guess not next episode, but the episode after that.
Yeah.
I do have that one, and I could argue that has some creepy stuff. And especially if you're a kid watching The Wizard of Oz, you're going to think there's some creepy shit about it. It's pretty scary.
This one kid at work kept being like, what, you've never seen the sequels to The Wizard of Oz? You've never seen Wicked or whatever the hell, like the musical? And, like, I'm just like, you realize that The Wizard of Oz is a series of books? And he's just like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was a Wizard of Oz. I think I've looked at it before. I think there was like a couple of Wizard of Oz movies before the famous one.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. With The Wizard of Oz, the craziest thing to let sink in is the director.
Was a piece of shit.
No. Well, maybe. Victor Fleming, in the same year, 1939, made Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz.
Was he related to Ian Fleming?
I cannot answer that question because I do not know. I don't know.
Do you know who Ian Fleming is?
Off the top of my head, nah.
He is the writer of the James Bond series.
Oh, okay, yeah. That okay. There is a possibility, although
which,
Victor Fleming
if you
was born
didn't
in
know,
the
the James Bond 007 series was also based off of novels by Ian Fleming.
But Victor Fleming did Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz in the same year, and like swept the Oscars that year because, I mean, who else was going to compete with that?
Gone with the Wind.
It's just crazy to think about how much success that is in 1 year, and how many directors don't have that much success in their whole careers, and he did 2 mega movies in 1 year.
Yeah, that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, you know, and I think there is something to say about, you know, directors who can get a lot of work done and, you know, consistently get results and, you know, just overall achieve what they set out to do. You know, I think there's something really to be said about delivering on the promise and the story and everything.
So we can end on a healthy note here.
On a health.
So when you get that new keyboard, you're gonna give me that one, right?
No, I need both keyboards.
That $4,000 keyboard.
Yeah, no,
Who? How? I mean, that's cool as fuck if anyone could ever afford that. But, you know,
I mean,
it's a lot to put out for a keyboard.
I mean, if
that's your job.
I mean, if I had the money, like, okay, if I had $4,500 to just bam today, just like not even think about it, money.
Then you'd give me that one. You don't have room for it down here. You need that spot for the new one.
Nope.
Nope. Yep.
But
That's
yeah,
it.
no, I think it's interesting diving into this period of horror stuff that a lot of times, that's an old movie or that's in black and white. And people find reasons to hate something without even giving it a shot or a chance, or even, like, you can't take your current mindset into a different part of time. You've got to go in and say, what is this going to be? Where's it going to take me? And how's it going to do? And it's going to give it to you in a different way that you're not used to. And I think there's something to be said about that.
I always say don't be closed-minded. And like, if you say I don't like black and white movies, blah, blah, blah,
well, then you're
blah,
not going
and
to.
It's like, okay, then like what? Well, Clerks is a great fucking
yeah.
movie, but you're never
Schindler's List is in black and white.
Yeah.
I don't see people shitting on that. You know. It's in black and white. Well, no, people do. And people, if you're using an arbitrary thing to hate something, I think that's the worst perspective to have. I feel like you've got to judge something based off its merits, not off of your Mike rating scale. What's a 10 out of 10? Billy Madison's the best film ever made, so every other movie's dumb. I know somebody who owns like 5 movies, and he's like, "These are the movies I need. Every other movie's bad." And it's like, well, that's stupid. That's a bad mindset to have because there's so much out there, man.
Well, here's a good note to end it on. What I always say to people is that you're the only person that can hold you back from something. Someone can tell you no, but you also have the option to tell them to fuck off. I'm gonna do it anyway. So literally, you're the only one holding yourself back. You might have a life or death situation, and it might be like, oh, you do this or you die. It's still your choice. It's just if you make the other choice, you're gonna die. So what it really comes down to is, do you really want to do something, or are you just gonna half-ass everything and not pull through?
I think another thing to realize is movies back before the cell phone era were meant to be sat down and watched and to be given to you in a whole story. So I can't tell you how many times people are like, I couldn't follow the movie. It's like, you were on your phone, you fucking jackass.
Yeah.
You're sitting there on Facebook and tweeting and all this bullshit, and then you're like, I couldn't follow it. Because it doesn't spoon feed you like you're a fucking invalid.
Yeah, and then there's people that are like, oh, I just can't sit down there and watch a 2-hour movie. It's just too much time.
It's like you're putting limitations on yourself.
Shit. Yeah.
And it's the thing where you say that and it becomes fact. You say it and it becomes truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course you feel that way because you've told yourself that 1,000 times. So, it's become facted to you.
Yeah.
And, no, man, old things are bad, man. You just don't understand a modern mindset.
A modern mindset is an impatient mindset. And you know what patience does? Everything.
Oh, yeah. Well,
if you want something done good, you need patience. Well, and that's the thing.
I always tell just about anybody I can, I say, if you want to help yourself, nothing can help you more than taking your smartphone, putting it down, walking away from it for multiple hours. Mm-hmm. Because you know what? There's a world outside and there's so much going on. You don't have to be caught up with everything every fucking second.
I turn my phone off. Yeah. Just turn it off, put it down. And you know what I've noticed? I've gone to checking it. I've gone, keep picking it up, trying to check the time, and it never turns on. And I'm just like, oh, I turned it off. And that right there is I'm like, what the fuck, man? Well, I've trained myself to do this. So, I need to not train myself. I need to get myself out of that.
And with something like that, the harder you make it for you to have that easy access, the better. Because then it's not just, okay, I need it. It's more of a, well, if I really need my phone, then I got to go out of my way to do something. Otherwise, anything else.
And you'll realize that your attention span gets larger. You find more joy in doing other things that are actually productive.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't realize that, a lot of joy is taken away just because of your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Because instead of getting up and taking a walk, you fucking looked up a video on YouTube or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And the walk would do you so much more because the thing is you could come up with 10 times more content in your brain if you fucking used your brain out walking.
Oh, yeah. And you find that a lot of things and stuff you're searching for is inside yourself and realizing, oh, I don't need that external satisfaction, and you don't need to find it elsewhere. It's like, oh shit, no, I just needed to take a walk to like calm my mind. Like I don't need to. I need whatever can take me away. It's like, go outside. Go where nature is, because it's nice and it's what's natural, man.
Yeah, like if you need something to forget, like don't go into your phone. Go out in nature, take a walk, just take in nature. It's air,
and of
fresh
course
air.
today's a rainy day.
Yeah,
so. But I just find it funny that, well, I just don't have an attention span for this thing. Maybe
you should work on it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I think our generation's been told, like, if you have a problem, then everybody else should accept your problem rather than you working on it.
That, and you probably need some ADHD medication or something like that for it, which is another, like, whole thing I won't get into.
But I think the attention span's been all messed up because everybody's sensory overload all day. You got to keep up with everybody news, everything. Come on, everything's important. Everything's important. You need to buy our products, you fucking filth monkeys. You know?
I don't want to sound too conspiracy about it, but that's exactly what the companies are trying to do. They're trying to overload people so that they don't get out and do things.
Well, and it's also so that you don't think and you impulse buy.
Yeah.
Because the more times you're just acting on every fucking impulse you have, you'd make every wrong decision.
Yeah, but the impulse buying, they're thinking about it in a capitalistic way.
Oh, yeah,
it affects every single aspect of life.
Yeah.
And people don't think about it like that. They think about it materialistically, but they don't think about it like it's actually doing damage to your mental health and all this.
People are like, I don't know why mental health is such a problem nowadays. I don't know, because business rapes your mind from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed.
Yeah, and there's like all these like disorders and stuff that they're just popping up out of nowhere, and it's like you don't think it has a connection with the phones and all the drugs
technology is not good for you.
Yeah.
Like, if you go home and if you're on tech from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, it's not good for you. And it's even proven that's not good for you. Staring at a screen's bad for your eyes. And also other sorts of things. And the other thing, retention of information goes down when you're looking at a screen and not a book.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's true.
You pick up information much better.
You retain information from physical objects more than you do from a digital screen. And, like, it's weird. If you read a book on a screen, you will not remember it as well as if you actually had the book in your hand. And something with the feeling of the paper and the smell of the paper and the whole experience of it. Because I think the thing is you get disconnect with the phone.
Yeah.
Like with a book, you can your brain can think back to the whole experience of the book. But if you're trying to remember a book you read on your phone, your brain's just thinking of your phone, and you've looked up millions of things on your phone.
Yeah, you don't have a connection with the thing. You're not. I mean, it's.
And our brains are trained to be the other way, not having everything in one place.
Yeah, you're supposed to be searching for things rather than, oh, well, it's just right here.
Yeah, yeah, it creates a lot of issues.
And also, cell phones have ruined horror movies because in the situations where a person is they're being chased by some killer.
Yeah, the phone will ring.
Whip the fucking phone out and just,
hello?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm being chased by this Jason guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh. And then all of his buddies with fucking hunting rifles, everything coming to blow him away. It's like, oh, well, this movie was not good. And then
it's
you get
weird
Halloween
because
Fog.
I hate movies where they have phones and like they show the texts on the phone and stuff.
Oh, it's so cheesy.
And it's just they should literally leave it with flip phones for movies, just forever.
No, they should leave it, like, we should perpetually be stuck in the 80s or early. No cell phone. You can have a fucking car phone.
Brick phone.
You know what?
If
you have the ability to get your goddamn car, pull out a car phone, and fucking call and hit the satellite and go through all that shit, and you can get to a person, and they get there before Jason gets you, you deserve to live. You know? But, no... But they always write around it because they're like, oh, no, they're out in the middle of the woods. Their service isn't working.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's convenient. And this is the stuff we'll come into in 2 episodes from now, I guess.
Yeah.
With those movies.
Yeah, the next...
How cell phones ruined horror. No, you know what really ruined
next
horror movies?
episode will be in the 40s.
What ruined horror movies, at least for me, was like they just went, we'll just throw a whole bunch of jump scares and not work on any bit of story. And you can't tell me, like, any horror film from the 2000s, except for, like, 10 that I can count on, like, I count on both hands the amount of, like, amazing horror films from the 2000s, or, like, even good, because they all became, hello, I'm on my phone. There's a guy down this hallway. I need to go look for him. Oh, my God.
You know
and then
what,
he jumps out and he gets him.
You know what
God.
ruined horror movies for me?
What?
I grew up watching, like, The Terminator, Mars Attacks, and shit like that. Well, Mars Attacks is, like, half-half. But grew up watching them, so now they're not scary.
Yeah.
I don't get scared by horror movies. Like, I'll get startled by a jump scare every now and not even now though. Like, not anymore.
Well, if
now
you're
it's
too
just
used
so
to,
predictable.
Well, they used it so formulaic that you couldn't even, like, when the music cut. And here's the thing: you can even pay attention if you're watching a modern horror film, like a bad one, and you're really paying attention. You can wait, and when the music cuts out, count to 4, and the thing will hop out. And it, like, every single time, it's like they don't even give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're literally like, just count to 4. Really?
Just count to 4.
Well, we used the formula. You used a formula? Yeah, it makes things easier. We don't have to try that hard. You know? And it's like, so instead of writing a good story, there's no stories. It's always, I'm trapped in a house and there's a ghost in here.
Well, it's everybody's trying to succeed, and if they're given a formula, then they're just like, okay, I can do this and make it by the skin of my teeth.
Formulas let untalented people make movies. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah. And it lets the talented people have a fucking extremely hard time.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Like, the untalented people are the ones getting all the shit. Yeah. And then the people that actually have fucking talent can't get a job in that field because all the people that are fucking dimwits keep them out because they know that they're going to fucking take their job.
Yeah. And they're like, and then it'll even be executives. Well, the kids really like the jump scares. We need more of them. We need more jump scares. Why don't you have enough jump scares?
Executives shouldn't be involved.
We want more of their breasts showing in this scene because that's going to stimulate the teens, and they'll tell their friends, and that'll get more of them to see the movie. And it's like,
I think breasts are a good way to end this.
Breasts are the best way to end an episode.
Yeah. So this has been guys talking about boobs.
And I just smacked my mic, so that's going to be a lot of clippage for you.
I definitely love boobs.
This has been the best episode we've ever done. Guys talking about boobage and the horror and the boobage and the gliving.
Can't wait to see what you guys have to say about this one.
Yeah, I want some comments on this fucking episode, guys. You know what?
Right.
You know what? Here's a part where I'm gonna be a greedy corporate motherfucker, and I'm gonna tell you, not only is it mandatory that you give me a like and a comment and a subscribe, but you got to tell your friends and your mom's friends, and you've got to go around your neighborhood with pieces of paper that says guys talking about stuff. You got to give it to everybody you know, and you've got to tell them that if they don't listen, that you're coming for their children. I want you to... No.
That my buddy Tony's going to find you.
Tony's outside your door right now, and he's going to fuck your legs up if you don't tell your friends. How about that? So this has been Guys Talking About Stuff. I'm Alex.
Yeah, I'm Kevin.
And we this might be our last episode. If
Signing out.
Signing out. All right, bye. If we don't get canceled, we'll be back to do the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and maybe the 70s. We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.